through the system. And she's going to be talking to us about a particular social skill tonight, dealing with difficult people. And we're going to do something that I always love to do. We're going to play a game.
So I hope it's okay to have a little bit of fun with y'all. And if you feel comfortable, please turn on your camera so I can see your beautiful face. And it also is helpful because as it was written in the chat, I need to see what color you are to be able to direct you and for Karen to also move you around on the board. So if you can pick up the 4 colors, and that's anything in your house that's just like easy to grab, we all have, and it's the green, yellow, red, and a blue thing. And then I'm going to go through what's called the DISC profile. And DISC, like there's all kinds of profiles and assessments, like personality things. And a lot of people know already about, you know, the astrology signs and everything. Psychology and social scientists have often studied people to see, well, where do they fit and how, what's similar and what's dissimilar and when does it work and when doesn't it? And so this is one of the ones that I learned, and I don't know if you've heard of Mbti, Myers-Briggs. This is easier. Like you can teach this to your child. And in fact, in the company I get my materials from, they actually have a questionnaire. They have it for children, they have it for CEOs of companies, and they have some for children. So it's like all kinds of things that you can do once we speak the same language. So once we've grabbed all those colors, did you all manage to print out the 2-sheet, this that came out in your email? I see a thumb. I love that, Natalie. Okay, so what I want you to do is taking this, you can, if you have a pencil handy or something, it'll be easier if you have a pencil. I want you, and I just have to get my phone for this because I have to time it. And what I want you to do is taking that sheet, let me just put a stopwatch. Okay, so you take this, and all I want you to do is look for number 1 on the sheet. Okay, has everyone found number 1? So we're all starting at the same place. Perfect. Natalie's cute. Okay, so what I want you to do, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and I want you to just go through and circle them. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, and find all of them on the sheet. And at 30 seconds, I'll stop you. Okay, everybody ready to go? Okay, start. Three, two, one, stop. Okay, so who had 10? Just put up your hand. Keep your hand up. Who had 15? Did anybody?
What do you do if you had like 14?
14. So like who had at least 10? At least 10. Okay. Who had 15? Nobody had 15. 14? Oh, Roselda had. Roselda, how many did you have in all? Do you want to unmute yourself and just give us a number? Oh, 13. She had 13. Okay. And you had 14, Karen?
Yeah. Okay.
Did anybody get higher than 14? No? Okay. I'm going to teach you a trick now. I want you to look closely at the page, and right at the top, there's a tiny little dot between the 49 and the 66. And there's another one right at the bottom between the 27 and the 84. And you'll see there's also another one between the 80 and the 26 on this side and the 79 and the 57. I want you to just draw 2 lines, make an X across it following those. Just use the edge of anything you have handy. Okay, yeah, everyone made the line. Now I want you to do it again and just, I love Natalie's thumb. I want you to just exit out starting at 1 again and see how far you get. We're going to do it again at 30 seconds. Ready? Go. Stop. Did you see the pattern? I didn't tell you, but did you see the pattern? 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did you see the pattern? Did anyone get more than what they got the first time? Once it was split. Yes, there's Natalie. She's a hoot. Who got more than what they got before? Once they split it up, once they kind of had a sense there's a pattern here. And I apologize, I was supposed to tell you, did you see the pattern? And I forgot. But I haven't done this in about 8 months. So I'm sorry about that. But so when we can see a pattern in something, we can follow it much differently than if we're just trying to guess where are they going. And it's the same with people. Once we know a few pieces of information about a person, we can predict how they will react to our requests, to our suggestions, to our recommendations, and to our demands. Sometimes we do have to demand. It depends who we're dealing with on how we approach them. So I'm going to teach you this, this profile, and we're going to learn about it about ourselves. Then we're going to think in terms of somebody else, and it's going to be easier to see that, oh, I understand now why this person isn't responding to me the way I want. So first I want to ask permission, just a nod of the head. Is it okay for me to play a little bit with you tonight? Okay. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to ask you those 4 colors that I asked you to pick up. let's say we're having coffee. Let's say we've met at a networking event or at school or something, and we're just getting to know each other, and you know, and we're getting along great. And I ask you, I say, you know, I'm really curious. So would you say you're more of an outgoing person, or are you more a reserved person? Most people kind of know what that feels like the outgoing person is like excited, and you can tell I'm a bit of an outgoing person, and they like people. They get their energy from people, and they get their energy from things happening around them. The more reserved person, they like things to be a little quieter. If you lean more towards outgoing, I'd like you to hold up red. And if you feel like you're more reserved, I'd like you to hold up blue. So we're going to move you guys. Oh, someone held up both. Now it might be Natalie's being funny. So I want you to just pick one. Like usually there's one that's like more likely. Think of the person you're having conflict with, and which one are you more likely to be? I'd rather not deal with this person, or I'm going to deal with this person. So Pam is at the top. So everybody who held up red should be at the top of the screen. Did everybody? Okay, so Natalie, you're red.
I have to lower your hand, Monique, because I can't move you there we go. Okay, so Katie, you were red, right?
Katie's red. Mohammed is red.
And
Natalie is both. She's having a hard time. Is there like, just, you're not locked into this. Just kind of pick one for tonight, because I do know what you mean. You're kind of living in both worlds. But which one do you think most of the time you're more comfortable, that you get a little more energy from? Blue. Okay, perfect. So now we have 4 people on the top and about 3-4 people on the bottom who are blue. So the top people are all red. and the bottom people are blue. Now we're going to do another thing. Now we're having our coffee. We're still enjoying ourselves. And I ask you, I'm curious to know, do you think you're more of a task-oriented person, or do you think you're more of a people person? And I'll give you an example. It's easy to tell if you're a task-oriented person. The task-oriented person is going to lay in bed at night and they're going to go through their day. They're going to say, okay, I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this, check, check, check. And they're going, oh no, I forgot to do this. And out of the pajamas, they're going to pull out their notebook and they're going to write down what they need to do tomorrow. That's a task-oriented person. They're always jotting notes down, making lists. They're always making sure. So this is the task-oriented person. But the people-oriented person is going to lay in bed and go, oh, today was such a great day. I saw so-and-so, and apparently she's going to be a grandmother. And that person over there was sad, and I was able to brighten up their day. So you can tell who you are based on how you would react laying in bed. How do you think of your day? So if you are a person who held the red pen, and you're still, and you are a people-oriented person, hold up the red pen. And if you are, sorry, if you were up here, I'm gonna scooch it over to here. Look, I'm gonna do this. So it didn't work. There we go. Okay. If you had a red pen and you're people-oriented, you are green. So just if you're people-oriented and you are outgoing. If you're a outgoing person, but you're more task-oriented, you like making lists and you're very, If you are a reserved person and you're very task-oriented, you're going to be yellow. And if you're a reserved person, you're going to be a blue. If you're people-oriented and reserved, so you're quiet, but you like meeting people. And just hold up the pen that you are so that we can put you in the right place. Okay, so we've got we do have a green. Perfect. So Katie is green and Mohammed is green. He's in the right place. And then Natalie is yellow.
Mohammed, what was Mohammed's color?
He was green. He's in the right place.
Okay, so we have two greens in the top right, and then we have me and
Pam
Natalie
needs to go down.
Pam needs to come down here.
Yeah. Do we have any blues? Oh, we have a blue. Perfect. And so we have to move Blanche. That's yellow, right? Blanche, that's yellow. So we need to move her next to Natalie.
Yeah.
It's not
Can
working.
I be outgoing and task-oriented?
Say that again.
Can I be outgoing and task-oriented?
Yes, you would be red.
Oh.
Pam goes up at the top left. So
Yes.
we have our two reds here. We have our two greens here.
Two reds, okay, so we have two greens, two reds, and we have some yellows. Where'd my yellows go?
Yeah, it's me, Natalie, and Blanche are yellow.
You're all yellow, and there's no blues here. Okay.
Yes,
we do
Lucy
have a
is
blue.
blue.
Lucy's a blue. Okay, perfect. So we have someone in each group. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier for you to get the rest of this. Okay, so this is about you. We're going to talk about you first, okay? And how we talk to each other depends on our work, and it depends on we're not labeling anyone. We're not labeling ourselves, and we're not labeling other people. It's to give us kind of a guidepost as to how should I approach this person. But we're not in a box. And, at 9:30, we're going to walk away from this. And if we decide, nah, it wasn't that color, it was really this color, that's totally fine. But this is just to sort of learn how people think about this. So the first thing, you're not locked in, and there's everything about all of these personalities is fantastic. They all have amazing qualities. So this is the DISC, and you can see that the green, the D, it actually stands for direct. Now, the direct person has the D, the dominant person. They have a perception of lead or get out of the way. We got to get this done. Let's get this done now. They don't like waiting. They want outcomes. They have things to do, they have places to go, they like being in control, and they don't like other people telling them what to do, especially if they already think they know what they have to do. That's just the way they're wired. And their parents, when they left home, that was the happiest day of their parents' lives. And I'll tell you why. It's not because they're bad people. It's not because you're bad people. It's because they got their house back. They got to go back to how things were before, because the D is a natural born leader. The D likes to get things done. They like to know that they can own it, they can control it. You'll hear them, come on, let's go. The language they use is very directive. And they have two greatest lessons. Okay. One, the first lesson is there is a God. And the second lesson is they're not God. So those are the most important lessons that Ds have. And they find this part a little boring sometimes. And that's totally okay. They're powerful, they're strong. You want a D on your side. We all have wonderful qualities, and we're fueled by certain things. And a D, let me know if I got this right. A D, they're fuel. Like if you have a car and you have a diesel engine, you have to put diesel gas in it, right? You have to put diesel. You have to get an unleaded, or everything will get gummed up. So we know that we have to put the right fuel. The right fuel for a D is getting things done. Does that make sense to the Ds in the room? Okay, so they're getting results. And if I was married, or if I was coaching you, if I was working with you, there's something, this is what I'd say to you. I'd come up, and if you said to me, I need you to do this, Monique, I would say, okay, listen, this is what I understand. You need me to do this, this, and this, and you need it done by then. You won't have to babysit me. You won't have to chase after me. I'm going to get it done. And if I have a problem, I'm going to come and tell you. How does that feel to hear that you don't have to chase after me and it will get done? Does that feel good for a D? Sort of. Okay. Because you're all about getting results. That is your juice. That is your thing. Oops. The outgoing person, the I, and the reason we put D in red, oh my goodness, I did this wrong. D should have been green. That doesn't matter. We'll do red. Red is stop. Let's get this done now. Drop everything. Let's get this done now. The I is, look at me, look at me. I am an inspiring person. I am a person, they're the happiest. When I have a group of people, I split 50 people in a room. And when I split the room and all the eyes went over there, they all started high-fiving each other, and they were super excited. They were super pumped, and they didn't know each other. And you would have sworn they all went to school together. They started sharing notes, and they wanted to exchange phone numbers and everything, because I's are the inspiring group. They are the happiest people you will ever meet. They love people who are constantly finding new things to do. And they're the kind of people that they will follow a rabbit hole. They just are always looking for something. And ADHD kids are often thought of as an I because they're very busy. But an I really wants to be with people because they're people oriented. So if they're really busy and they're doing tasks, that's because they're a D. Does that make sense? And not an I. They are, if your parents, the day you left home, do you remember how I said for the Ds, the happiest day of their lives was when the Ds left home because they got their house back? With the Is, that was the saddest day because you took the fun with you. You ended up, when you left, it just wasn't the same anymore. But you have the biggest heart. You really do. And you love having fun and you love bringing joy to other people. When you left, you never needed to find a party. You were the party. And that's why your parents missed you. The D's are all about having fun. They're, but the one thing is, and we all have something. With the D's, the D's sometimes, like I said, sometimes they want to take care of everything. But the I's, they have a harder time staying focused, which can be a problem for them. Now, we did have an S. I think it was the Vivian, that was the S, or the Lucy. S stands for supportive. Whenever I'm in a room where there's a lot of supportive people, it's very cute to see. They are the nicest people in the room. They're saying, oh, did you want to sit here? Is that window bothering you? Do you want me to open it or close it? They are the ones that are taking care of everyone. When you're at school, the S's are the ones making cookies and getting cards signed for the teacher, and they take care of everyone. They take care of the kids, they can take care of the teachers. They kind of forget to take care of themselves, but they are the nicest people in the room. And you know how I said with the D's, your parents were happy to get their house back, and with the I's, the fun left. But the S's, with your parents, you never really left home. You're still there. You're calling every day. You might not be living there, but you kind of are. You know everything that's going on with mom. You know everything that's going on with dad. If anything goes on, you're going to be there. And you will drop everything to go home to mom and dad. I'm seeing a lot of nodding from this, Lucy. And the thing is that you don't like conflict. And just like the fuel for the D's are to get results, and the fuel for the I's are to have fun, with the S's, the real fuel is in peace and harmony. In fact, if I go into a room and I see where everyone is, and I come up to you and I'll say to you, listen, I'm going to take care of this. We're on the same team here. If anything happens and there's conflict, especially from those D's, sometimes they can come after you and it can make you feel a little overwhelmed. Well, I've got your back. We're a team. We're going to take care of this, because you need peace and harmony, and other ones do something different, but sometimes it can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And so confrontation, S's have the hardest time with confrontation, because they just don't like anyone to be unhappy with them. So they're the nicest people. And if you just cut them off in mid-sentence or something, they can be very wounded, because this is something that, they just have a hard time speaking up and having their needs met. And so that's when people talk to you, if they speak too fast, it can be a little bit overwhelming. Could you just slow down? What is it do you need? I was in a training once, and all I did was change the seats around, and suddenly the S's came in and they weren't sitting in the same spot, and they went, they don't handle change very well. They like things to be like, I can rely on this, very reliable. And that can really affect us when we have to deal with other people. And the C's are the reserved, task-oriented people. The C's are actually the smartest people in the room. The C's are researchers and mathematicians and I'm trying to think, engineers. Engineers are C's. They're looking for details. They're very detail-oriented. They look for everything. They look for all the little details that I miss. You see, my highest quality is I'm mostly an I. And as an I have a hard time with the C's. I want to have fun. Details aren't as important to me. As an I, we want to just enjoy ourselves and really get things going really fast. But C's are like more cautious. They're, in fact, C stands for cautious, if you want to pick one word. And when, you know how I said with the D's, when they left home, the parents got their house back, and when the I's left home, the fun left with them. And then when the S's, they never really left home. Well, the C's, you actually probably bought your house, your mom and dad's house, and rented it back to them, because then you didn't have to deal with probate, and it just made a lot of sense financially. And you just are very cautious, and you're very like and this is the thing that's really interesting. You'll see that C's and I's and S's and D's marry each other. They do that a lot. I had a room and there were lots of couples, and there were no two couple was in the same quadrant. They all ended up opposite of each other, except one couple that was side by side, but everybody else was different. So I was saying that the D's, they want to get results. The I's, they want to have fun. The S's, they need peace and harmony. But the cautious people, they actually have 3 fuels that get their motor running. They want quality answers, they want value, and they need to be correct. And that goes, now these are all in all of us. We have all 4, but there's one that we're leaning towards. There's one that kind of feels more natural, easier to get to. Like, I have to work to be a D. I have to work really hard to be an S, a C, I mean. I'm an IS mostly. So I'm very people oriented, and I have to work to do the other things that other people can do more easily. Now that might be my ADHD, but the task part can elude me. And so we have to look at what our competencies are, and then we have to appreciate that there's other things that we can do besides this. So does this make sense so far? Can I just see some heads or some hands or something to make sure that I'm loving Natalie's thumb? Okay, so what I'm gonna, oh, Vivian's here too. Yes, I noticed you, thank you. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a break, and I'm gonna move my camera, and I'm gonna ask you all to just go get a drink of water or something. And we're going to move to my other computer, because this isn't going to work as well as I thought it would. This is my first time with this setup for this particular thing. And I think it's just going to work better if I move over to my other computer. It's going to take me about 5 minutes. If you want to go get a quick drink of water and take care of yourself, and we'll come right back, and we'll finish the inside of our page and go through the whole thing. Thanks. Okay. You guys at chat 13. I have to step away. Okay. Screen. Stop share. Okay. Yeah.
Monique?
Yes. So is everyone back?
I'm not sure, but you do have it on presentation mode on your PowerPoint. I don't know if that's okay, or if you just wanted it on pure presentation mode.
Did I not open the right one? Okay, hang on a sec here. Stop share. Oh yeah, I had it on the wrong screen. Thanks. Now do you see it?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let me just put this over here. I'm just checking the chat. I have to step away. Okay, so is everyone back? It's hard to tell. Okay.
Natalie is.
Natalie is. So we're going to fill, oh, can you see me now? We're going to fill this sheet with there's 4 pictures. So it's the same 4 pictures that you see here. The D.
Yeah, we don't actually see you.
You
right
don't
now.
see me? Okay. I'll just stop the share for a quick second. Oh, I forgot to move my camera. Well, that won't work. Okay, hang on. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Now can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, let me just move my camera a bit. Okay, so let me just do that again. And it's this one and share. Okay, so now you can see me and you can see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so we're going to do this sheet now, the inside of the sheet that you printed out if you printed both sides, otherwise it's just the sheet alone. And you can see that it's the same thing that we were looking at here, which is the outgoing. You've got the outgoing and can you see my mouse on it? No, eh?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Oh, okay. So the D is the green and it's for go, go, go. And the red is for stop and look at me. And the S is for, how can I help? And the C is for, okay, I got to check this. I got to make sure it's right. I can't make any mistakes. It's very important. So those are the things that are the most important. Why is this not moving? Okay, I'll do it like this. Okay, so the green is goal-oriented. They are very intense as people, and they state things more than they ask. They're not likely to ask you your opinion. They're likely to tell you what they think you should do. That's just typical of a D. They need to get things done. They speak fast. They need things done fast. They don't need people lollygagging around. So when we look at the I, they're very entertaining. They are great at parties. They're great at telling stories. They tell stories and anecdotes. That's how they teach. I'm a natural storyteller. It's not hard at all for me to do. The nicest and friendliest people are the blues. They are friendly, they're informal, and they will ask what you think, how you feel, tell me more about that. They don't state things. They don't tell you how you should feel. They make great counselors and therapists, and they really have a natural tendency to do that. They have a gift for that. And then the C, they're the ones that are logical. They're focused on excellence, and they're very fact-oriented. That's why I said they make great accountants. They make great, all kinds of things. Now, if you're going to a party, you want to bring an I with you. If you're getting surgery, you want to see working on you. So there's something good for every single one. The dominant person, if you don't have a leader that is goal-oriented, that is intense enough to get over the bumps, you're going to get stuck. So leadership has all of these, but if you don't have anyone in the group that is goal-oriented, you're not going to be able to get anything done. And I'll tell you a personal story on that. Years ago, I joined, I was in a theater group, and the theater, there was a fabulous theater group just up the street. I was living in Petawawa and Pembroke was nearby, and they had a beautiful theater. And I said, how did you do this? And they said, well, we had the hardest time. We couldn't afford it. We were going to lose the building. And it's because everybody who was there was either an I or an S. And then they realized they needed to get people from the community, the accountants, the lawyers, the engineers, who are more D and C. And as soon as they had a mixture, they were actually able to make a profit. And this building, I don't know if it's still there now, this is 20 years ago, but they were actually able to make a sustainable investment into this building, and it became a part of the community. And it's only because they got to do a mixture. And it's the same thing when we're dealing with school, when we're dealing with, someone's kind of getting in here, when we're dealing with schools, or we're dealing with a boss, or we're dealing with their spouse, we have to look at getting a mixture that work well together. It doesn't always work well together. In fact, if you were in a room together and I had split you all into corners of the room, I would ask you pick who you're most likely to be. If you couldn't be where you are, where would you be? You would pick beside you and not diagonal to you, because diagonal is the most opposite of what you naturally want to do. Very rarely people will pick someone diagonal. It happens, but it's pretty rare that people say, no, if I'm not here, I would be over there. And it's very interesting, because when we look at different companies, like I think of the hospitals that I've done work. I've done a lot of work in, because I was a mental health counselor. It was the same thing there. If you look at the nonprofits, the ones that make it is because they have someone who's in the green. They have someone who's in the yellow, who's able to keep a ledger and keep track of things and have a goal. And, but if eyes are running the show, a lot of people are going to have fun, but the bills won't get paid. So it's important to have a mixture in every environment, including the teaching environment. So if you have and I know that when of course, I was mentioning earlier, my daughter has learning disability. She has ADHD like I do, but she also has a form of dyslexia. And she was very distractible with her ADHD. And she had a principal who was very much a green, very much a D. And if I spoke to her and I'd say, oh, my daughter's not doing well, she didn't even want to hear it. She just said, tell me your problem, tell me what you need, I'll get it done. But she didn't want to talk about the details or what happened. She didn't need to know all that. But the vice principal was an S. So if I needed to tell the story, I would reach out to the vice principal. And I would tell her this happened and she was really hurt, or it was very embarrassing to her. And the vice principal could help me help my daughter with her feelings. But the principal had a harder time, because it was just about getting the job done. And that's just the way it works. And when we understand, when we see someone is speaking fast and they're thinking fast, we can see the difference from the people who are a little bit quieter, a little bit more reserved. Then we can make a choice on how we're going to engage with them. So we're going to fill out this sheet. And at the top, the first one, you'll see there's I think there's 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 Ds. And the first D would be dominant. You can just write that right down. And the second D would be direct. Oh, I put them backwards there. I had a lot going on when I did this PowerPoint. The third one is demanding. The fourth one is decisive. Then determined. And the sixth one is a D is a doer. They get things done, DOER. So you can see these are all extremely positive qualities that Ds have, that they bring to everything that they do. If we want to get things done, we don't want someone who's being wishy-washy and who is always like, I still remember, because I'm a high S, I remember being in a room and I said, and this person next to me said, is it cold in here? I said, oh yeah, it's really cold. And she said, I'm going to go get a sweater. And she got up and she left. And this other person came and sat down at the table and said, gosh, it's so hot. I said, yeah, it's really hot, isn't it? And I didn't even realize I had said it. It was another person who was at the table who said, you just said the opposite. I said, I was just supporting her. She was cold. Yeah, it's cold. It was cold for her. But I didn't see anything weird about that because S's just like to keep the peace and be harmonious, right? But D's are not like that. They say, it was probably a D who told me, why did you say two different things? Because they like things to be direct. They like things to be decisive. They're not wishy-washy ever. They just know what they want. And for them, and you can see just at the very bottom of, in that corner, you can write 10 to 15%. So 10, this is the smallest group. And sometimes I don't even have a D in the room if I'm working, like, especially because I've done a lot of work in mental health. So a lot of them are S's and I's, but there's not a lot of D's there. So 10 to 15% of the population consider themselves a D. And then the red one, the I, and we'll just go through those 6. The first I stands for influential. And the second one would be inspiring. And the third one would be impressionable. And the fourth one would be interactive. And the fifth one would be impressive. And the sixth one would be involved. We just get in everybody's business, basically. So this is a larger group. There's 25 to 30% approximately. And this is on 6 continents, not in Antarctica. Nobody's ever gone there to do this. But whenever you go into a room, that's about the split that we look at, is 25 to 30% will end up in the high I's. The blue is for supportive. And that would be the first word. It's supportive at the bottom of the page. And steady. I hope I'm not going too fast. Stable. They're very sweet. They like everybody. Remember how I said they don't like change? They like the status quo. And they are shy, or they tend to be shy. And that's about 30 to 35%. And that's actually the largest group. And this has been done, like I said, DISC has been applied in every culture, and these come up pretty consistently in those numbers. For the C, they are the most cautious group. They're the ones that have to think everything through. I I have a friend that if I ask her, hey, let's go do this, she'll say no 100% of the time. But if I say to her, hey, I was thinking of going over there, you want to think about it and get back to me? She can get back to me and say, oh, I'd love to. But if I don't give her that time to think about it, to evaluate it, she'll always say no. So now I know to give her a heads up. So she's competent. She's calculating. They are a very conscientious group. I get asked how to spell that all the time, so I will. It's CONSCIENTIOUS, conscientious. They just don't like making mistakes. They're I can never say this word, contemplative, like they contemplate. They're contemplative, and they're always careful. They just don't like making mistakes. And they are, again, a little bit like the, they're 20 to 25%. They're not the biggest group and they're not the smallest. They're kind of like, they're about the same size as the I, to 20 to 25%. Now, the person who put this together, he's a very religious man. He was a pastor for a while, so he calls all these are blessings. And then he says we have some blips too. So we want to look quickly at the 4 again, but just to let you know that when we're thinking about the direct person, you're going to add one more, the last D that we didn't do, and that is that they can be a little defiant. It's something that a D has to be worried about. Like, am I challenging too much? Do I have to always be right? That is something that they can struggle with. For the I, the thing that they need to, and that includes me, the thing that they need to think about is, am I being logical here? So we tend to be illogical. Like, to someone who's a C, they find us a little kooky. And the supportive and steady person, the thing they kind of need to work on is they can be seen as a sucker. Like, they say yes way too often. They need better boundaries, basically. And the cautious person, they can be a little cold. They have a hard time showing warmth. They're being very careful. Going around again, we're going to start with the Ds. The Ds, when it says, I like to win. I like to plan for the future. I like new ideas. I like results. I like to be my own boss. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that are a D. I like to move fast, so people can bore them. And the last one is, I like a challenge. So while the Ds like to win, the high Is, they like to be liked. I like to express my ideas and feelings. I like being in front of a group. COVID's hard on eyes. I like surprises. I like lots of fun and activities. And I like recognition. When we're talking to a D, we need to speak fast. We need to say, hey, I'm going to get this done for you. Like I was saying earlier, you won't have to chase after me. I know exactly what you're looking for. I'll let you know if I have a problem. With the high I, when we're talking to a high I, we have to say, you want to have some fun? You want to do something fun? Okay, this is going to be great. That's how we get an I on board. We don't get an I on board by saying we're going to get great results. We say we're going to have a lot of fun. And we can, like, when we're task oriented, we will, when we're task oriented, where was I going with this? Sorry. It's late for me. It's past my bedtime. Okay, we'll come back to it. Sorry about that, guys. But a D likes things to move fast, and an I needs things to be fun. And when we need to bring them along, we need to speak their language. We need to, and we can, if we know where they're sitting, we can actually just change our language to bring them on board. The same with an S. If we're speaking very fast with an S, it can be a bit of a turnoff. It can be like a little overwhelming. I had one friend who, if you even stood too close to her, she felt a little overwhelmed. She needed things to be calm, nothing to be moved, and she needed this peace and harmony so much that anything out of place made her uncomfortable. So we're just going to go through her, what she likes. I like to be accepted. I like teamwork and cooperation. I like harmony. I like things to stay the same. And I like appreciation.
Monique, what was the, I like sticking with what?
Works.
Okay, thanks.
Did I skip it? I like sticking with what works. I like harmony. I like things to stay the same. I like appreciation. I might have skipped it. Sorry about that. Okay, for the C, I like to be right. I like to know what is expected of me. I like an established pattern. I like clear instructions. I like finishing what I start. I like organizing things. When you think of all the professional organizers and the people that are looking, they're always looking for an established pattern that's going to work, that's going to be sustainable. These people, that makes them comfortable. And when things are out of place, it makes them uncomfortable because they don't know where to find it. And so that's where they need things to be right. And that's the right place to put it. So everything in its place, and whatever that saying is. So when I'm thinking in terms, I'm just going to move it back to here. Oops. And share the screen again. I'm an I, and when I was in university, I had to take statistics. Let me just tell you, it wasn't fun. My husband is a C. When I would look at my textbook on the table, on the coffee table, I'd say, honey, every time I see that textbook, I get a migraine. And he looked at me and he said, now you know how I feel when you want to talk about our feelings. So you can see the difference in how we are. I have a daughter who is definitely an I, who loves to tell stories. And my stepdaughter is more of a D. She asks something, she just wants a quick answer. Don't go into detail. Same with my stepson, who's a C. Just give me the goods. Don't get into. My stepdaughter made the mistake one day at supper of asking my daughter, the high I, why do turtles go into their shells? For 10 minutes, my biology loving daughter went into every detail as to not only why they go into their shells, but how they do it. So that's the difference. And she was saying, I just wanted to know why. And it was like, that was a typical response for a D. It didn't hurt my daughter. She just kept talking, right? Because she's not afraid. Now, if she had spoken like that to someone who's an S, the S would have been hurt because it just feels like too harsh. Well, I was just trying to give you more details. So we have to look at someone and say, well, are they responding to me the way they are because of their personality, of something that they need? And when we get our needs met, we are much easier to be around. And it's also more fun to buy for people when we know, or to give people when we know what their personality is. So let's think, it's Mother's Day this weekend. So I did this little thing here. Oops, here we go. If your mom is a D, you want to play mom's favorite board game and let her be the one to delegate the roles or the rules. That's a great gift for a D mom. If your mom is a high I, do a TikTok video with her and get all your friends to comment on it on social media. That's what a high I would like for Mother's Day. If your mother is a supportive type, find old photos of vacations when you were younger and make her a memory book. Because mom is an old sentimental fool if she's a high S. If mom is a C, watch Mary Kondo with her on Netflix and clean out one room with her. She will love you forever. Organize that room, color coordinate everything. This is how we can enjoy our mothers. If we know what our mother is like, it's so much easier to plan a surprise for them. The same thing with the teacher. If the teacher is someone who is a control freak, that means she might be on the task side. When a teacher wants it to be done right, wants it to be done perfectly, and they send the homework home corrected in red ink, and it just looks like the page is bleeding, they can't tolerate mistakes. That's because they're task oriented and they're either a D or a C. So if we want to talk to a teacher who's more people oriented and our kid is disruptive in class, this could be difficult for her. So we have to look at how the person wants to be spoken to. And what we can do is I'll actually ask you for some examples if you want, and we can go through, like at school or at work or with someone. If you want to just put something in the chat, give me an example, you can send it directly to me and I can give you sort of an example as to how you could use this. There's a direct message thing. So if do you have any examples of people who drive you a little bit crazy at school or at home, and you're wondering, how do I get across to this person? A demanding person, how do you make them back off? So if they are a demanding person, their needs aren't being met. That's the first thing we need to know. When we are in conflict with someone and they're being demanding, it's because they are feeling fearful. Either they're going to lose something, or they're going to, they just feel like they're losing control. They're not getting what they need. So how we deal with the demanding person is we get really clear on what they need. So if they're saying to you, I need this, this, and this, and this, we don't, you know how they say, oh, say it back to them, but in your own words. I'm going to suggest you say it back to them, say it to them in their words, not yours, because people want to hear what they're thinking. So for example, if, I wish I had an example here, but someone who's demanding, can you tell me if it's someone at work, at school? Can you give me an example so I can make this example a little bit more relevant to you, the person who asked me that question? Okay, when it's a spouse, okay, when it's a spouse, my spouse telling me she did the right way of doing things. Okay, so this spouse, if it's always this is the right thing, that kind of leads me to think that they might be kind of a C. And if you're not a C, and you probably aren't, because married people tend to marry someone different. If they're task oriented, that's going to be the more important thing. Conflict happens mostly when it's task versus people. So if a people person, whether they're outgoing and super happy or more reserved and very quiet, but again, people oriented, and you're more task oriented, this is where people get into trouble. Conflict happens because the task oriented and the people oriented have a different motor. They have a different, it's the thing that makes, that juices them up, that makes them go. So when we're dealing with someone who is constantly telling us this is the right way to do things, we can ask them, is it possible that there is another right way? Because most people will have to agree that there is another right way. And when it's a spouse, when it's somebody that we're related to, it's even more important that we have these difficult conversations with them where we say, listen, I have to tell you, it has become hurtful that you do this. Because people don't do things intentionally to bother other people. We have to make the assumption that when people are, they're driving us a little bit crazy here at times, it's because their needs aren't being met and our needs aren't being met because we need to approach us a different way. So we have to tell them. If it's someone we're married to, then yes, we have to say, listen, honey, I know you don't mean it, but this is your impact on me. And I need you to I need you to tell me like this, or I need you to give me a little bit of wiggle room to do it my way, unless you want to do it. I have a tendency when people tell me this is the right way to do it, oh, did you want to do it? Okay, go ahead. And that's always a good way to do that, to stop the argument. But then we have to have a conversation. If it's an intimate relationship, if it's someone we work with next to all the time, we need to set a boundary. And that's actually a bigger conversation. Boundary setting is something that we learn when we're kids. It's not a personality thing as much as it is, did we have a model? So if someone set a boundary by saying, no, and then that's all we know how to do, then we have to tell them, listen, that's not respectful. And we have to teach them that my boundary is you need to respect me. And that means that you need to respect me, that I'm going to get it done, might not be your way, and you have to have a conversation. There's nothing more that we can do except have those conversations and give expectations and say, what do I, and ask them, well, help me get you to stop. What can I say to help you stop? Like if they're really being pushy and they're really being irritable like that, and they're being demanding and saying, do it this way, it really depends too, because like, I mean, I've met people that are so OCD that it puts them in a spin. And so we have to sometimes be accommodating, but we have to let them know we're being accommodating, but you know, that sometimes they have to give as well. So it's give and take when it's that kind of a relationship. A little bit more difficult when it's at work and it's your boss. Sometimes we have to adjust to the environment, and sometimes we have to ask them to make an adjustment too. So I don't know if that answers your question. I don't want to identify the person, but that's kind of where I go with that. I have another one here. A son has over-the-top ADHD. No matter what routine I put in place or what person I engage to help him stay on task, he will find a way to deviate and falls behind on every task at school. He has a high I and I am a C. Oh, that's really helpful. Isn't it great that you figured that out, that you're different than him? Okay, so a high I they need to have fun. So that's really important for them. So we have to turn everything into a game, from how to read a book to how to pick up your toys. We have to do that. And ADHD, because of the executive functions, we really have to think in terms of how do we get through to them, still give them that dopamine hit of fun that an ADHD kid needs. But we also need to say, and then after we do this, we're going to do that. Sometimes we have to reward something, because with kids who have ADHD, it can't be a reward like, next week I'll take you for ice cream. It needs to be almost an immediate reward, especially with ADHD. They don't have that staying, they don't have that staying power to wait till next week. I mean, we all tried the marbles thing. If you have this many marbles, we'll go to the restaurant. Works well with a C, doesn't work so well with an I, and even more so if they're ADHD. So he is a high I and I am a C, engaging to stay on task. So staying on task, there's all kinds of gizmos. I'm sure you must know about the time timer. You familiar with the time timer? Yeah, it's just it's a wonderful way. And you say, okay, when it gets to there, then you'll be done. That's how much time you have. And so we have to find ways that will encourage them. Also, the language that we use can be a difference. Like, I don't like to check my emails. I have a really hard time checking my emails, and they're messed up right now. So it's like even more so. But I tell myself I'm digging for gold. So find a language that speaks to their personality. When we're dealing with a kid who's a high I, ask them, what would make this fun? Get him involved. It's a boy, right? Yeah. Get him involved. And you'll be able to find that he actually has quite a few ideas that might make it more fun. Yeah. Demanding person having to make them back off, telling you what to do. Oh, good. That was helpful. Good. Do we have any other questions about ADHD? And what about learning disabilities and at school? Has anyone had problems with school? And you can unmute yourself if you, mind you, this is being recorded, just to be clear. So you may want to just type it in there. But did you have problems with a teacher? I remember at one point I had a teacher, oh my God, he was bad. I don't know what he was, because I probably C-ish, but anyway, he decided that all the kids, we had whole language learning. I assume you're all familiar with it. It's where you put kids in groups and they help each other out. And this teacher had been out of the loop for several years because of something wrong with his ear or something. And he came back and he said, I want all the kids lined up in rows and no one's allowed to talk. Well, my ADHD kid, who was fantastic in a group, I would just say, sit her next to someone who's really struggling with math, but is good at reading, and you'll get two kids that succeed. So that's always how they got matched up, right? And she was fine, as long as she had this kind of a setup where she could help other kids in their math or science, and they could help her read the questions, because she couldn't read the questions. So he had decided he would line everybody up, and they weren't allowed to talk. And her grades plummeted. And I was very concerned. And I ended up asking to meet him with the principal. I didn't know the principal, but I wasn't going to do this alone. And I let him know this was unacceptable. This is a whole language learning school, and you have to put the kids together. And he said, no, this is my class. I can do whatever I want. And this is how I want it. And I said, no, it's not your class. It's the children's class. You have to adapt to the kids. And he did not have this opinion. And I ended up sitting there, and I think he, I think he thought I would just go away. And I just said, I don't know how long you plan to talk to me here, but I'm ready to stay here till past midnight if you want. But I'm not leaving until you tell me the kids are going to be put in groups, because that's what this school is. I was very respectful, but very, very firm with him. And finally he said, well, I'll put her with someone. I said, you're not going to have her stand out. No. All the kids. This is the way it was set up before you arrived. And now that you're back, you have to come into this group and you have to. So finally, he finally said yes. I think when I said, do you have kids? And he said, yeah. And I said, do you love your kids? He said, of course I love my kids. I said, so do I. In fact, she's the only thing in my life that's paid for. And there is no way I'm leaving here until you put all the kids the way they used to be before you came back. And he finally gave up and he said, fine. But he was mad at me. And he put the kids in groups. And when I walked out, the principal asked me to come to her office. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to the principal's office. Here I am, an adult. I was still afraid of going to the principal's office. And she gave me a hug. She said she had been trying to get him to do this. But I just let him know, this is not your class. You are part of a school board. You are part of this school, and the class belongs to the kids. You are here to facilitate their learning. You're not doing it. So therefore, you're doing a bad job. I spoke to what he needed to know he was doing a good job. He didn't last. I think he lasted another 3 months. And then finally, he just retired early. He just couldn't do it because the kids were rambunctious and they wanted to talk. And, you know, like all kids, her grades went up again. Everybody did better. Everybody did better. But he couldn't understand because he had been out of the school system. And they basically, apparently he had been on long-term disability and no one thought to send him to the doctor to see if he was better. So he was collecting long-term disability for years and years, and they changed the whole system. And he came back to a different system and just thought it would adapt to him instead of the other way around until he met me. So sometimes we do have to get out of our comfort zone. I'm not a confrontational person, but I can assure you that when it's our kids, sometimes when we're dealing with someone, we are respectful, but we say, listen, if you need to do this right, you need to do what everybody else is doing because my kid is failing in your class. You're failing as a teacher. And yeah, so it does mean being a little bit, not brutal, but honest, very honest. Does anyone else have a question? If you want to unmute yourself, you can do that as well.
What would you suggest for somebody that is in like a room by themselves and they're an I, but they don't have much people contact at all at work?
Wow, that's a tough one. So is it a job they love?
Yes.
Okay. So they love the job, but they're not getting they're feeling isolated.
Yes.
Okay. So is there anything in the job that so they love the job. There's a reason they love the job. So it's either the work that they're doing puts them in contact with people or they're like, because right now with the pandemic, there's a lot of eyes that are going crazy because they used to be in an office space and now they're working at home. So everybody's kind of in that boat right now. For the eyes, it's just really important to create habits or systems within our workplace that allows us to still be connected with one another. And a lot of companies, what they're doing is they're having like a twice a week, and it depends. Everybody's different. Like I have one of my employer clients, and she says she figured all her people out. And so like one person she has to talk to every single day, sometimes twice a day to check in on her because this person needs that contact. This other person, she only needs to talk to him every 2 weeks to see where he's at in his projects. So as employers, it's our responsibility to provide that for our employees. The employee in question that you're talking about may have to bring this up to the boss and say, I'm feeling quite isolated. Now, is this someone who's working from home?
No.
Okay.
Working at work, but in an office by herself.
Okay.
With
there is a really neat tool that I've been using because I work from home because I work here in my office. And have you heard of focusmate.com?
I knew you were going to say focus mate.
It is
Okay, yeah.
I'm serious. It's so good. I started using it. I had a car accident 4 years ago, and I was really not functional for a long time. And so I made it part of my recovery plan where I just needed to be able to get up and get dressed. So I would make my first session at whatever time I wanted to be up and about by. And then I would come and I'd say, well, and they'd say, what are you going to do this hour? And I'd say, well, my goal was to be dressed and functional by now. So I'm sitting here and I'm going to check my emails. And so it's just, it breaks up my day. Now, my most productive days working at home are when I do what I call a focus mate day. Like when I have to do admin, I cannot get my admin done unless I have somebody that I say it's that accountability, but it's also there's somebody there, like we're not going to chit chat. We're going to chit chat for like 3 minutes at the beginning, another 3 minutes at the end, but that little light break makes a big deal. And also if there's any way, since she's a social person, if she can just go for a quick walk around the office and say hi to people, if that's permitted, then she should do it, or he, I don't know who it is. So, but staying stuck at their desk would not be good for them, regardless of whether they have ADHD or not, or any learning disabilities. If they are a social person, that is a need that they have. And so they need to figure out a way to get some kind of contact. And if it's disruptive to the other people, then I would suggest focus mate as an alternative.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
suggestions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one I would go for. And also to reward themselves with social time, like whether it's like to say, well, at the end of the week, I'm going to have a Zoom call with my family, or I'll have, I have a lot of coffee dates on Zoom to sort of fill in what I used to do at the coffee shop, right? And I'd say, oh, let's get together. I need a gab fest, and it's the way to do it. It's not as nice as face to face, but if you have to work and there's no one to talk to, but there might be also a possibility if that person says, I need to see more people around me. Can we move my desk to be where the other people are? I don't know, but they may not be able to do that. There's some things to explore. Yeah, there's definitely some things that can be explored there, but it needs to be explored with the boss.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck with that.
Very helpful seminar. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's hard to
Yeah,
tell.
really good.
Oh, good. Yeah. And I'll I think I have what have I got there that I can send you on that? Well, I'll try out focus mate, but I'll send you my contact info, and you can reach out to me if you want any more tips or something, and I'd be happy to give you some ideas, or we can brainstorm something, or we could do a Zoom call and we could brainstorm a bunch of ideas. And that goes for everyone. If anyone has any questions, I love meeting new people. I'm an I.
Me too. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. I love finding, and I love brainstorming is like one of the things. ADHD and an I, brainstorming, like that's kind of it's what juices me up, right? I may not be able to do my accounting, but good at brainstorming.
I hear you.
Well, I have to say that Monique and I are both I's, and that's how this webinar came to be. We both got juiced up, and I'm very glad to say thank you from all of us that are here, Monique, and for everyone that will benefit once it goes up on the website, because it was most interesting. And I thank you very much for coming.
You're so welcome. I'm really happy I hope it was helpful. It was meant to be fun. And there's just so many things you can do once you understand that person is task oriented and I am more of a people person. Therefore, I have to talk their language. It's all about speaking their language that's going to get us to get better outcomes, whether it's with the pharmacist or the doctor. And, you know, I could do a whole thing on how to talk to a doctor. By the way, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to tell you one thing right away. When you're speaking to any kind of health professionals, I make a list of the things I want to go through. I make 2 copies and I give them one. I write it out so that when we're talking about it, we're both looking at the same information. So if that, you know, if that's helpful, and you can do that with your teachers too, when you're going to the school and you're trying to figure out, you know, what you should do, and you're trying to plan, I would write it out, and then I would follow it up with an email so you're both on the same page.
Yeah, it takes the emotion out of it. Makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because when we do get it, especially with our kids, right? It's
Right.
like, you know, like, my little angel. Yeah, your little angel did that. Sometimes we forget we did that when we were kids, right? Yeah. So I did record it. We missed part of my bio at the beginning, so I will send it to you. And yeah, does anyone have any other questions before we go? And please do reach out to me if you have any questions. If you go, well, that was dumb, I'd like to know that too. I'm always trying to improve. It's a little bit harder virtually to do this particular one, but I really do appreciate that you brought some questions to the table for me to play with a little bit. And anything that's too personal to have brought to this table, please do reach out to me. I'd be happy to help.
Thank you so much, Monique.
Take good care.
You too.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.